Hey there everybody, welcome to the top 5 reasons Bioshock Infinite's brand new Clash in the Clouds DLC pack completely sucks. Calm down. Let's start off by saying that I am a terrifically gigantic fan of the series, and especially Bioshock Infinite as a whole. And I really enjoy this DLC, but I think we can all agree that there are certain areas where this DLC fell a little flat, and I'd really like to explore them in a little bit more depth in this video. Now, if you want to just tout the praises of this game, and believe me, I completely understand where you're coming from, be sure to check out my companion video to this, the top 5 reasons Bioshock Infinite's new DLC is totally awesome. But for right now, let's get into some of the ways that it let me down just a little bit. Now, number 5 and number 4 are very similar, but to get into the real specifics, number 5 has to deal with the monotony of this DLC pack. Now, it's going to see you returning to the same maps time and time again for every single wave, and after a while that gets just a little stale. Sure, they'll remove a skyhook or change the route of a skyline here or there. They may even do slight variations on other aspects such as tears and things like that. But to be honest with you, it's going to feel largely similar every time you get into the environment. Now, that wouldn't be such a big problem except for the fact that it really illustrates problem number 4, which is the lack of interesting enemy types. I never really noticed it in the main game because you're constantly running and gunning in very high pressure situations. But for the most part, you're just shooting at the same guy who's wearing a different outfit and shooting a different gun at you. Not to mention the fact that in order to increase difficulty, they generally just added to the amount of shots an enemy takes to bring down. This doesn't really lend itself to a very adventurous platform. And coupled with the fact that we're not really progressing through different rooms and kind of just are plopped into one giant battle arena, it serves to illustrate some of the weaknesses that those enemies and that the design of the levels had. Now, I'm not saying that these levels in the DLC pack are poorly designed. There are plenty of places to hide, plenty of fun things to find, and of course you're going to be able to jump around from your skylines and do all sorts of different attacks like that. But I will say that it becomes a little bit more of the same the later you get into the game. There weren't really any boss-type monsters or baddies in the main game either, especially if you don't count the horrendously reused siren. And it really shows in this type of mode. Sure, you get your zealots and your firemen and the like running around, causing a little bit more trouble for you, but the DLC really serves to remind me of that first encounter I had with that fireman. And you're really thinking that this game is going to have some terrific bosses that you have to take down. And it kind of patters out after that, and you don't really get that same experience again. Number 3, death upon respawn. This isn't something I want to dwell on because it made me so freaking frustrated when it took place. But this is probably one of the worst feelings that you're going to get in the DLC. Mostly because as you respawn, you know you've already failed your blue ribbon challenge, and you're a little bit depressed because you haven't got that huge money bonus that you were going for. And then you get some frickin' handyman camper chucking a giant ball of energy at your neck and killing you the instant you respawn. It is kind of ridiculous. Before I really realized that I was able to move slightly to the left or right in the pure white screen, it was possible for me to die in exactly the same fashion 3 or 4 times in a row. It's very particular to certain map packs, usually with handyman in them. But it's still pretty annoying to have to restart over and over before you even really get a chance. There were a couple of times where the announcer, or the patriot that serves to motivate you, just continued the statement that he had started when I originally died. That's how quickly this turnaround time was. Number 2 would be the lack of story. Now, I know why story is out, but I still really miss it. It was one of the things that made Bioshock Infinite just so engaging and so interesting. To be fair, there are story elements to be found in the Archaeological Society, and they are a lot of fun and very engaging and presented in an interesting way. but I still feel like there's a little bit of a missed opportunity to string these kind of combat scenarios together. I realize that it doesn't really fit into the mythos and it doesn't really fit into the timeline, but in a game where you've literally set up the very principle of infinite possibilities, I don't think it's too much to ask for some kind of scenario where we have to journey to these different places and fight wave after wave for some ultimate goal. Now, I will say that this is made up for a little bit in a rather surprising way in the DLC, but I don't want to give anything away. It is very enjoyable to find these little moments, but I wish there were just a couple more of them. Finally, the number one reason Bioshock Infinite's Clash in the Clouds DLC sucks is the lack of interaction with Elizabeth. Now, you can still aim a gun at her face and get her to dance out of the way and say something to you, but for the most part, there's none of that banter that made the main game so enjoyable. Elizabeth was a huge factor in my enjoyment of the main Bioshock Infinite story. The way she interacted with the environment and the different things she would say and do seemed to be largely missing. Even some of the stuff she says during combat is strangely absent. I find myself wondering where some of the phrases that they had programmed into the main game went in this DLC because I just don't seem to hear them. It really feels like a solo journey through this DLC, and I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity as well. Well, sure, Elizabeth's with you, but it doesn't really feel like she's with you in the same sense as she was in the main game. Now, as I said in my other video, I think they really lessened a lot of these story element problems by announcing 2 other DLC packs that'll be coming out that are really going to be heavily story driven and dive into some very cool themes that I'm super excited to check out. But still, I feel kind of shafted not having them in this DLC. It would be a really refreshing and nice little tidbit to have some new interactions with Elizabeth, because we have kind of missed these characters. I've replayed the main game 3 separate times just to milk everything I could out of the different characters and how they interact with the world and each other. And I think that I was secretly hoping and longing for just a little fresh taste on that. But apparently I'm just going to have to replay the main game again and get whatever enjoyment I can still get out of that. Anyway, you guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Overall, I would say that Bioshock Infinite's new DLC is amazing, and if you have the game, this is well worth the price of admission. It is a lot of fun, and I would say that with the 2 packs that they have announced additionally, this is a very nice little bonus for those of us who purchased the Season Pass and those of you who are thinking about it now. Anyway, thanks one more time, you guys. I really appreciate it. Feel free to check out my channel if you want to see any other videos by me. But even if you don't do that, I want to thank you for watching this particular one. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time.